Hello and welcome to the Serra High School Football Podcast. Today is a very exciting day. I'm here joined with head varsity coach Patrick Walsh. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, honored to be here again.
Awesome. Well, today is a big day with our game tomorrow night, which is going to be broadcast live on ESPN nationally, beginning at 8 o'clock against the De La Salle Spartans. And we are podcasting in the morning, which is this very bright light here. And as we were talking,
it's called the sun.
It is the sun, but I feel like it's a blinder for me. But so when I start sweating, it's not because I'm nervous. But I wanted to talk with you because as you came in, we were just chatting while Rosie got here, and you read a really powerful poem, and I thought, it would be great. I think people listen to this obviously for the football, but it does give everybody kind of a bird's eye view into your mind frame and your mindset and how you kind of make the choices that you do being the leader of this team. So would you mind reading that poem?
Sure, no problem. I think there is a battle for our soul that's waged every day, every minute, and we either win or lose that battle every moment. And this is, I think, more of a life thing. But the beautiful thing about football is, and the reason why I love coaching so much is because I can talk about this here at Serra with the kids. And
be a role model and inject some ideas that they might, and perspectives that they might not otherwise.
Yeah, and the role model thing is heavy at times because I'm a failure just like everyone else. And we're all failing in a way, and some fail more than others, and we all have our problems and dark pits that we throw ourselves into or get thrown into by life. And I think there's just a lot of challenges that we have to deal with on a daily basis. And I've come across this poem by Marianne Williamson, which has really resonated with me currently, and it's something that I'm going to read in chapel today to the kids. The seniors have already heard it, but I'm going to introduce this to the team. But Marianne Williamson said she wrote this for Nelson Mandela's inaugural speech in 1994. So a lot of power goes into this one. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. You were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we consciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
That is very powerful and so motivating. I can only imagine how well received that's going to be by the team today. How did the seniors receive that poem?
Well, I mean, there's a lot to consume.
It is.
I think
I've heard it twice now, and I'm like, I didn't.
Yes, Marianne Williamson, and it's our deepest fear, and I think as it resonates to everyone, all art resonates differently for everyone.
Sure.
As I started this podcast, for me, it's the darkness and the light, and I've gone a little bit further, and I've always said it's the Joker and the Batman, and inside all of us, I feel like there's a daily war for the fight for the Joker winning or the Batman winning, and all of us have both, and that's really the unique thing about being human is understanding that while we're all failures, we're all sinners, we can also all be closer to what Marianne Williamson is saying here about being closer to the light or closer to God or being powerful leaders like Nelson Mandela obviously was for millions and will be forever. So and I think another thing that has resonated with me in this last couple years is and this was Unusual Suspects, but I think St. Thomas Aquinas said, the greatest trick the devil ever played was convincing the world he wasn't real. And I think true evil exists. We can't see it. I mean, it's clear when you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. But truthfully, I think on the daily basis, when it comes to the Joker and the Batman, the evil or the challenge of the dark is sitting out here in plain light. And so it's, I think it's just something that, again, as an extension of what we teach here at Serra, which is, I think football is a co-curricular experience for Serra, not extracurricular, it's co-curricular.
Right.
And, you know, a lot of coaches, you know, that watch this, and I actually got that from Rich Hammond. He was really involved in the fight last year. He's at Clovis High School, or he's a wonderful man. And I said, yeah, extracurricular sports. He goes, no, coach, it's co-curricular. You know, so the extension of the classroom, the extension of our faith-based school.
Absolutely.
The extension of Jesus's teachings is for me, just something that is resonates when we can talk to the football team in these sort of fashions.
It's absolutely true. I mean, your program definitely does, it really highlights the pillars of the school, and it is co-curricular. I love that. Well, I found that whole concept is just so powerful and positive, and I appreciate you sharing it because it is, you know, enlightening, and you know, they've done tons of research on, you know, how happiness and gratitude are contagious, and that poem is kind of illustrative of, like, you know, the more that we shine, the more that we do good, it is attractive to others in terms of them wanting to be good themselves. So, very good. Well, you said it in Senior Chapel, which is where you also have chosen your captains from. So, can you name the captains this week? You did not last week because you hadn't mentioned it to the team yet. So
yes, we have 5 captains, and at coin toss, we're only allowed 4 for some reason. I guess, you know, crowd mitigation. I never understood that rule, but so we're only allowed 4 to go out every week. And we'll rotate the 4 of the 5 captains to go out. But our 5 captains this year are Alex Atkins, which is well deserved, and
absolutely
Joey Villaroman, Sam Oligarski, Ryan Silver, and I always forget the 5th, not in particular order.
Gilmartin.
And Seamus Gilmartin. Yes.
Great.
And those guys we vote on captains here. I want the team to own their captains, and I also want to see where the heart of the team is and who they see as the captains. I think it makes no sense to me to have the coaches pick the captains, like, because it's not our team.
Right.
So we take a vote and tally it up, and these 5 guys stood out amongst the rest. Now, close to 40 kids got votes.
That's great.
Which means there's a large depth of leadership that people look up to in a certain fashion. But when we tallied up the numbers, these 5 stood out the most. So.
That's excellent. Wonderful. Yeah. And we actually saw a ton of great plays from those captains last week. And I wanted to kind of get into the Folsom game and bring up the takeaways from that game. We played in Folsom on August 26th at a little after 7 p.m. It got pushed back a little bit. Final score was 17-12. It was an amazing game. It was hot. It was, I think, a really wonderful showing by both sides of the field and both sides of the stands. I mean, it was a really positive, fun Friday Night Lights type of situation. So can you talk to us a little bit about the game itself?
Yeah, it lived up to its billing as 2 of the top programs in Northern California, getting after it the first week of the season. Second for them, but first for us. And it was a championship title fight, and everyone looks forward to. That's following high school sports, and I think our coaches and their coaches and players delivered on what is really, really high class, high caliber football, where the game itself was honored. The coaches honored the game. The players honored the game through their effort. There was no smack talk, or at least I didn't hear anything. There was no fights. There's no personal fouls and all that garbage that can ruin a great game. And I was just, really proud to be a part of it, because I'm really close with Justin Peterson and the head coach Paul Doherty up there. Wonderful human beings that give their life to kids, and you can see that in Folsom's program is. And when I say program, I mean it's a true program. They have the junior Bulldogs. I mean, there's like.
It's a factory for sure.
Infants running around in Bulldog jerseys that are already playing football, like infants. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. Yeah. I run out of that giant Bulldog, and the kids grow up in Folsom with a desire to be a Bulldog. They have athletic PE, which is a lot of us don't have that, which is a boon. They lift and they do things all year round basically, and you can see that the precision on how they operate and. The route running and the quarterback was fantastic. Holy cow. 6'6".
I mean, he stood up like you could always find him.
I tell you, they ran a corner route on 3rd down and completed the ball. And I was watching the tight end. I was at a good vantage point, and he's running a corner right at me. And the ball came out of number 12's hands. And I'm like, if this kid misses this ball, it's going to kill me.
Right.
I mean, the spin on it, the velocity, it was just like, first down, that's a damn good throw.
Yeah.
So they made some incredible plays. I mean, it wasn't the cleanest game. I think that's pretty natural for this time of year. A lot of things that we need to clean up, and I'm sure they're saying the same thing. Obviously, they had a turnover on the 3-yard line late in the game. And I always say this, like, they can say, hey, we turned the ball over at the 3. And I'd like to say, well, we took it away.
Right.
It goes both ways.
Depends on who you ask.
Totally. And sometimes the other team makes plays. And we saw that. And then in this game, Seamus Gilmartin made a brilliant effort play, and he spilled the ball and then redirected and threw his body on the ball carrier, and the ball came out. And it was, two great programs. It was a fitting way to end the game, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it was...
At least from my vantage point.
It was great.
I know Paul doesn't.
Yeah, right. Again, who you ask. But it was a wonderful game. We had, I think for the first game, it was amazing. I mean, to have that type of, the level of skill was obvious on both sides. We did have a lot of cramping. We had a lot of our Padres down at one point. I kind of counted 4 at one point. I mean, it was, and, I did talk to Duke later, and he said, it's a 4-hour bus ride. It's the first game of the season. We can, do you have anything to say about the cramping? Or?
Well, it's 22 years in. I'm humble enough to know that I'm going to learn a lot more than we learned Friday night. There's a lot more lessons to be learned.
Right.
And that's the beauty of being a coach and being human and understanding that we don't have it all figured out. We've never been through anything like that before, ever.
It was
Ever.
it was a sight to see for sure. And actually, like I said, I was talking with Duke and Kevin, and they, we were joking. I was like, you guys get MVP too. You were running just as much as some of the players.
Yeah, they lost. I think they had like 2 miles on their
little
iPhones. But I think there's something to be said about learning from experience, and then there's something to be said about overdoing the learning from the experience. Mm-hmm. And I've waffled between that this week. Like, we have a cramp issue at Serra. Well, in 22 years, we've had a cramp issue 1 game.
Right.
Okay.
It was very unique. I mean, it was
kids cramp, but this was exceptional. There was a definite exception to the rule. And I remember when LeBron James went out in the NBA championship, he had cramps. You get cramps, you're done. I mean, it might as well be, a broken leg. You're done. And we got to that point. And there's a lot of reasons. I called Mike Blasquez, who's the head strength conditioning coach, performance. I don't know his title, but he's one of the very, very best in the world at understanding human physiological responses to everything: running, lifting, eating, hydration, everything. And he's the head guy at Cal. And I've known him. He's been a dear friend forever. He worked at De La Salle as the strength coach when I was a senior.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I don't think he ever lost a game there. And so, I went, I talked to him, and there's no one thing that you can say, okay, you didn't take the magic pill, or you didn't hydrate enough, or you ate wrong, or it's a multitude of things to avoid cramping. And I asked him, the first question I asked him is, I just have a question. In your mind, in your world, are cramps 100% avoidable? And he said yes. So the other thing too is, you look at it, and when you see someone cramping, you're like, oh, that dude's out of shape. Well, I don't agree with that. I don't agree that we are out of shape, because we do the things that we do. We've always done it when we've always been in shape. So it's not, we should have ran more, we should have done more, whatever. It's, there's a lot of different things that go into it, including the conditions that we're not used to. And that's one of the things when you're playing in Concord or Folsom. Like, we knew, I talked about it all the time. It's 106 in Folsom. Yeah. It's 106 in Folsom. And so there's an acclimation. There's all sorts of things, a lot of lessons. But my major takeaway sitting here on Thursday now is, let's not just change everything, throw everything out because we had a bad night this way. But we do have to get better that way.
Right.
I remember on the last drive, I turned around and Jojo Bay was out, Danny Neu was out, Jabari Mann was out, Jaden Green was out, and Seamus Gilmartin was out. And I went, okay, I'm measuring the level of the injury here. It's a cramp. It's not a concussion. It's not a broken leg.
Right.
So I turn around and I go, man, it'd sure be nice if one of you would go on the field right now, please. And I remember Seamus looked at me, and this is sideline stuff, which is fun, I think, for the listeners.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he goes, Coach, I'm not 100%. And I go, no one's 100%, Seamus. No one's 100%. And then I just kind of left it at that. And it's funny that the last play of the game was made by a captain, a senior. These are the things that we talk about all the time.
Love this.
This always comes down to, Jabari was fantastic, and Danny was fantastic, and JoJo Bay was fantastic. These are all the juniors that contributed. But at the end of the game, the senior captain was the one that made the play that we'll always remember for that game and that night. And it was Seamus who did what I said. He spilled the ball, came back, ripped the ball out, and if he's not on the field, it's probable that they walk in and score.
Right.
And then they're going for 2 or we're in overtime and all that drama. Thankfully, Seamus, not being 100%, and I'm just saying this for, being a tough coach, but also being mindful of kids.
Right.
Like, you got to cramp, get on the field, please. And there's one play left or whatever. So.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Ultimately, just to wrap up the cramps, is like ultimately, maybe we saw our boys go down with a cramp, but they went back in. I mean, the grit and cramped again. I mean, I thought that almost, spoke just as clearly as the hydration or condition issue, right? Is that like they didn't give up.
And that's the thing about it. Like, you ask any of these kids, like, do you want to be out there? The answer is going to be yes.
Oh yeah.
1,000 out of 1,000. It was just they couldn't function,
right.
And that's just it's a great lesson. And I know that our team moms are on board. Duke and I called every one of them. I said, okay, guys, we got a problem, and we need to fix it. Mm-hmm. So, and that was after I did my research, and I know Duke and Kevin in the training department did their research and talked to the team moms about, hey, how are we going to help these guys? And, we live in a very, very wonderfully soft Mediterranean climate.
With the bay breeze and everything.
Gosh, it's like, and I even mentioned it last week. It's a wonderful, soft, open the window, sleep at night type of place. And, when we play other places, it's hotter and there's other challenges, and we got through it, and now we're on to
another heat wave in Concord, which we'll get to in a minute. I just wanted to wrap up the game. Atkins had a great fourth quarter. He ran Raider double wing. Can you talk about the decision to do that and just some of the highlights of the game? But first, let's talk about Atkins.
Yeah, well, we hadn't run the double wing in that fashion in many years, and that's a decision that was made long ago by Coach Bell and myself on the type of players we have. And I think Coach Bell's a genius in the sense that he's smart enough to alter the offensive game strategy based on the personnel. So we decided that we had the personnel this year to go back to the original double wing 1948
so cool
formation that people are like, what is that thing? And that was born into existence when I got here in 2001, and when Archbishop Reardon was running it, and Coach Orris was the head coach. I actually just saw him this morning at coffee, and they just destroyed us with it. And I had zero idea about what it was. What is this? And I was the D coordinator then. And I'm like, this is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. And they put up 50 points or whatever in 2001, and Reardon slammed us. And I'm like, I got to have that. Instead of like fighting it, it's stupid. I'm like, well, we're going to run it.
Exactly.
So then in 2002, we started running it on fourth down. It was our fourth down offense. You should be able to get a yard type concept, which we didn't get against SI a few years back, but that's a different story. And we ran it on 4th and 1, and this guy, Matt O'Connor, who is a decathlete at Oklahoma, fantastic athlete, 4th and 1 on the minus 40-yard line, and he goes 60 yards. I go, whoa.
Oh, God.
Okay, I was hoping to get a yard. We got 60. So then it kind of became more and more and more, and then we've morphed it between option football, and it's just always been kind of a part of what we do. Every offense needs to have like what we would call a 4-minute offense, a bad weather offense, a short yardage out goal line and short yardage, and this is kind of for Serra morphed into the culture of we can do it in multiple different situations. So that night we got into it and it was like, whoa, okay, we got 8 yards there. Oh my gosh, we got 7 yards there. And it was like, well, let's stay in it. Let's get in. Let's stay in it. Let's not try to, we want to get 8 yards. If we're getting 8 yards of play or whatever, then let's get out of here, man. Guys are cramping. It's hard.
Right.
Part of the problem, though, with the double wing is for us, a lot of the guys that are on it are the heavier, bigger defensive players. And that led to cramping from Bay and Niu and Jabari and Seamus, and all those guys are like playing truly two ways, where in the spread we have other players like Joey Villarome and Jay Webb and McGovern and Judier and all those guys. So
I was going to mention that the amount of playtime that those that were cramping had was, marginally larger than most players. So, I mean, there's
so
that
the success of it led to some of the other things. But anyway, it's I've asked the players to live in the present.
Yep.
And today's Thursday, and
yeah, let's move on. All right. Well, just before we go, though, Jay Webb had an amazing TD. There were any other standouts that you want to mention? Because I know that, everybody played a great game. Obviously, you've named a lot. Niu was on fire. Man was on fire. Jaden Green played well. Everybody played.
Yeah, that was a game I would say is a collection of effort.
Yeah.
And that collection of the depth of the team and the bottom of the fire stuff. We went into the game. Our biggest unknowns were offensive line and special teams, which we've talked about. And I thought the offensive line and the special teams were almost the star of the show. Particularly once we got into the double wing and they just started to move the line of scrimmage, which was fantastic. And then I thought Dylan kicked the ball. These are the things.
Oh, yeah, GDA was great.
He banged a field goal. His kickoffs were fantastic. Trimmer punted the ball well. These are all things in championship games that have to show up. And we went 9 of 12 in our goals. We do 3 on offense, 3 on defense, 4 on O, 4 on D, 4 on special teams. Getting 12 of 12 is almost impossible. It's only happened 1 or 2 times. I need to know this now because I go back in history so I can actually say what games they happened. But we were 9 of 12. We were 3 for 3 in all phases of the game. And if we hit 75% of our goals, it's probable that we'll have more points than the other team. If we don't, it starts to slip, and then we're under 75%. It's like, we had one too many turnovers or whatever the measuring stick is on that. And 75% as a collective score, no team has ever got 75% over the course of a season. So the standard is 75% and above if you want to be a championship team, and we were at that against Folsom. And in the East Bay against Concord, it's going to be even more challenging or challenging on a different level to hit that benchmark.
Awesome. Well, that's a wonderful parlay into the next topic, which is the game against De La Salle tomorrow night at 8:00 in Concord. 75%, that's great. That shows that our team is ready for the second battle. You graduated from De La Salle in 1993. You were a star athlete yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about your experiences there and also how our football program kind of I would say is very like, I don't want to say mirrors because they're different as well, but they do have a lot of, intersecting concepts.
Sure. Well, my experience at De La Salle was transformational. It was, amazing. And that goes from freshman year to senior year, and it goes from the minute I walked on campus, I just felt at home. And I felt like I was going home, leaving my home, going to another home with all of my brothers and sisters across the street at Carondelet. And I'm talking, Dr. Ann Cook was my English teacher, and she changed my life. Bob Sanso was my history teacher. He changed my life. We just had amazing people that were just a part that just dove into our lives. The Christian Brothers helped change my life. And I would say a life already well led with wonderful parents. My mom and dad are great. And
they are great.
And, but to go to a place that was so transformational, and then going to see Bob Ladouceur and Terry Edson and Mark Piniella and all these men that were they were like almost like gods to me in a good way. And I don't mean that, and I think Coach Ladd would take umbrage to that, but the impact this man continues to have on my life, when I just think of Bob Ladouceur, who's a legend in high school football, it's just the level of humility and the lessons that he taught, and his presence and knowing his human story. And he's just a figure that I am one of thousands of people who would sit there and say that about Coach Ladouceur, because he is truly an extension of the Catholic Church and the teachings of Jesus, and just shrouded it all in football. And he's very competitive, but he's very stoic. And man, I got nothing but the utmost respect for those 4 years of my life. I'm proud to be a Spartan, and I'm always torn in this game. This is why we haven't played it in many times. or in many years. I mean, we are 0-10, I think. I read in the paper 0-8. We're not very successful against them, so that, you know, people could say, oh, you don't want to play them because you lose to them all the time. And there's some truth to that. We weren't ready to play them. I think now that we took some hiatus, some time away, like we needed more time to grow our culture here and grow our program and get it to a place where we could be mentioned in the same, you know, title or headline as De La Salle. And I remember I read an article in 2019 where it said De La Salle and Serra, you know, NorCal teams, whatever. And I was like, oh man, that's pretty cool. It's taken 2 decades to even be in that conversation, in my opinion.
Sure.
Because I know what happens over there, and I know
played over there. I
yes.
mean, to actually be a member of the team and that culture and know its roots and its tradition and its goals.
Yes.
Right. It's probably an interesting position for you to be in on the other side.
It is, and it's hard for me to separate from that. I never will. I don't want to separate from it. Of
course not.
But this week I have to.
Yeah, I was going to say just that 364-day rule.
Totally.
Right?
No. Yeah. And this is what Northern California football wants. Northern California high school football needs. It is clearly time to get back on the horse and challenge ourselves against the perennial #1 team, the standard not only of Northern California football but California high school football over the last 3 decades. And it's a test that is going to be challenging, and it's something that we are excited about. You asked about the similarities in the program, and I think the ingredients on what we do here at Serra are very, very similar. And the things that when I got here in 2001, I wanted to duplicate the program. And being 26 and afraid and, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, it made sense to me to do that. So I basically went, same ingredients, same recipe, we're going to be De La Salle over here. I learned, though, that that's not impossible. It's not possible because of a lot of factors. But the first factor that of the ingredients that is different is Bob Ladouceur. And you'll hear a lot of coaches say, be yourself, be yourself. I actually watched something last night about Alabama and Auburn, and Gene Stallings, who was a coach at Auburn after Bear Bryant, or coached with Bear Bryant, said the first thing he had to be was not Bear Bryant. And it resonated with me particularly this week because no one can be Bob Ladouceur. No one can be you, Amy Strain. No one can be anyone else. You have to be yourself. But that's a hard thing to learn as a young coach when you're afraid. And you're playing Bellarmine, St. Francis, and you're like, oh my God, this is what I know. We're going to do this, same exact. I'm going to actually act like Bob Ladouceur. But I'm nothing like Bob Ladouceur in personality-wise. Similar in values, same recipe or same ingredients, you know, love, brotherhood. Humility. You know, we added humility. That's a Father Joe thing. Although Bob Ladouceur is arguably one of the most humble people ever. Who retires at game 399? Bob Ladouceur. You know, everyone else would be like, cool. All right, I'm going to coach one more game. I'm going to kick someone's ass. And at 400, I'm going to retire. Like,
yeah, exactly. Even number.
Yeah, you just get to 400. Like, I'm like, lad, you're a quitter, man. Come on, you got to 399, you quit? What's the matter with you? But then, so I would say that would be the way I answer that question. So we have our own spin on things. The peninsula is different than the East Bay. We're in a very, very competitive environment. There's a ton of Catholic and private schools over here, which if the Archdiocese of Oakland is listening to me, we need more Catholic schools in the East Bay. Right. You know, it's kind of a tragedy. If you look at Seattle, you know, they've opened so many Catholic high schools. And, you know, you can say what you want about private schools and then argument public versus private, but Catholic education is a winner. They've done such a great job of educating millions and millions and millions of people over the years in a faith-based environment. And I wish there was another high school. You know, my brother lives in Pleasanton, and my kids didn't, or my nephews and my niece didn't go to De La Salle or Crondelet because that's a long drive.
That's a large distance, yeah.
And Foothill and is a great school. But if there was a private Catholic school in Pleasanton, would they have gone there? Maybe. Right. So anyway, that's a different story.
Well, good. Well, I love all the Bob Ladouceur talk, and I just want to say the reason I had you start that podcast today with that poem is because a lot of people look at you with the same respect, that you are an amazing leader, head coach. I mean, you just So don't sell yourself short. Is all I mean. Is like you're an amazing role model
Thank
for.
you.
I think that the same people that would, you have a multitude of years of boys that have come through and see you as that. So now let's get to the game itself. So it is going to be, it's a lot of pressure. It's going to be broadcast live on ESPN, and of course, as you just told everybody, the team itself is a powerhouse. So how are you preparing the boys to compete?
I'm encouraging them to internalize the experience. There's a lot of inputs that come into every one of our lives every day, and minimizing our inputs is healthy. And what's changed about the world and what's changed in the years I've been coaching even is the constant onslaught of inputs. And having to filter those inputs is something that is a challenge. For example, like I have not watched the news or read anything news-oriented for 4 months. I just got overwhelmed and understood like the cycle of it. Like it's not healthy to sit there and read every news article or sit there and watch the TV, whether you're watching CNN or Fox, it doesn't matter. It's just, I don't think it's healthy. It wasn't healthy for me and I had to cut it out. And that doesn't mean I'm like putting my head in the sand with current events or, I'm not concerned about things, but this is a game that we need to internalize and we need to minimize the inputs. What does this person think? What does this person think? What does this website think? What does this article say? Like, none of that matters really. What does ESPN think? What is the TV going to look? What's the camera going to look like? What am I going to look like on the TV? Like,
That's
okay,
what I mean, yeah.
What about stepping with your correct foot while the De La Salle lineman is like choking you into the backfield?
Right.
That's the challenge.
Prioritize, right?
That's the challenge. And it's very, very, we've never done this before. There's a never occurrence here. We've never had 14 kids down with cramps. We have to deal with that. Serra High School's never played on national TV. Most high schools don't ever get to say that sentence out loud. So now that I think of it. So, but De La Salle has. At De La Salle, this is a common occurrence for a program of that stature. I see them every year on some sort of national TV broadcast, sometimes twice or 3 times. So this is normal for them. It's like they don't even, they know where the tower goes and the interview and whatever happens, I don't know. But they're used to it. The coaches are used to it. The players are used to it. This is a program that's been in the spotlight forever. And that's not normal for us. So I'm asking us, even though it's impossible to pretend like it's not happening, we need to find inner strength to minimize the inputs, including the fact that we are playing very real on national TV. I told the team that there's going to be in a bar in Manhattan at 11 o'clock p.m., there's going to be Serra Padres watching us play.
Absolutely.
That is really cool.
That's really, really
so
cool.
Let's embrace that. Let's not be afraid of that. That's a really cool thing. This is great for the school. This is great for us. This is, it's great for you as an opportunity. But embrace it. Don't be afraid of it, and then move forward.
Kind of goes back to your poem at the beginning too, right? Is like shining your best self, not being afraid to do your best, and
Good.
regardless of what kind of surrounds you.
Yeah.
Because it is a lot of pressure. There's no question. Anyone or anything about the program itself? Have you watched De La Salle play recently? Do you have any knowledge of what we're up against from a specific football standpoint?
Aside from all of that,
sure.
So last year they lost 3 football games, and an angry De La Salle team is a scary De La Salle team. So in 1991, my football team, my junior year, lost and a game. So most people, you lost a game. Well, we might as well just lost them all, for at least the mindset my friends and myself were in at that time. And then we won 151 games in a row. That was the outcome of that one loss.
Wow.
It was a bunch of angry teenagers
Spartans
who rewrote the book on what it meant to be a Spartan at that time. And we recommitted, we re-sacrificed, we band together as a senior class, and we said, this is how we do things here at De La Salle. As a matter of fact, we, the seniors, kicked off 2 players in the summer of 1992. And Coach Ladd goes, you can't do that. You can't just kick players off the team. And I said, well, we just did. So you're going to have to deal with that. Like, I'm sorry, but they're not living up to our standards. And I think that was kind of the birth of a repositioning of De La Salle football in an already really high position, because it wasn't like, there was no streak before that. We had a 44-game win streak, which actually was broken by St. Francis in 1989. I was at that game as a freshman, so that resonated with me. Then I'm like, I'm never going to do that. That's never going to be me. Junior year, we lost, so it was me and us, and we said, no, we're not doing this anymore. And our senior year motto was leave no doubt. That was what we wanted to do. And our closest game was, I think, 41-18 or something. It was like, we don't really want to just win. We want to leave no doubt.
Right.
We want to dominate. And we dominate in the weight room, and we dominate on the track, and we dominate everywhere. We dominate in our decisions off the field. We dominate our relationships. We're going to go deeper into one another. And I think that's where they're at right now. And I'm afraid of that.
Right.
I'm not going to say I'm afraid, but I'm cognizant of it.
Right.
Because of my relationship with Justin Allenbaugh, who, by the way, just for the record, if anyone's listening, is the best choice to replace Coach Bob Ladouceur that could ever happen. I'm saying that.
You speak very highly of him, too.
I love Justin, and he's just so spiritually deep, and he's perfect. And as an alum, I'm so thankful that he's over there running the ship. And, you look at last year, and you look at those losses, and they lost to St. Francis literally on the last play of the game. And then they lost to
Folsom, right?
They lost to Folsom on literally the last play of the game.
Right.
47 minutes, 58 seconds in both of those games, basically. And then they lost to an NFL team, basically from Baltimore. And they played, I think they lost by 10 or something. It was a noble effort on national TV that I got to watch. But I was saying to the team the other day, like, Charlie, my son, is like, I'm going to beat you up, Dad. And I look him straight in the face and I go, if that's the way it's going to go, you're going to have to kill me. So if we're going to do this,
sorry,
you better be ready to kill me, because I'm not going to let this happen. The story, or the segue of that, is that's the mindset you have to have. And I think St. Francis did last year and Folsom did last year in those two games. Like, if this is something that we would like to do, we're going to have to go 48 minutes in the game. And hopefully we're in that position. But an angry De La Salle team is a tough De La Salle team, and the strength of their team is up front. So they have 5 returning offensive linemen and 3 or 4 returning defensive linemen.
Wow.
And that's, the strength of, and people think about the branding of De La Salle football. When people think of De La Salle football over a 30-year time, they think precision in the offensive line. How do they get off the ball like that? And I know how they get off the ball like that. And that's something that's going to be one of the things in the game, like watching their offensive line versus our defensive line, watching their defensive line versus our offensive line, something that I was concerned about last week. And
yes,
it's going to be something that's going to come to light Friday night. And if I know Justin and I know the Spartan way, and if they can, run counter tray and do the things that they do extremely well, and if we don't have the gumption to stop it, then it's just going to be a long night. And that's just the way. And there's a lot of courage and toughness and coaching, and I think people have said over time, it's not what De La Salle does, it's how they do it, and the people doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to
be
be a
a
tough
battle.
night. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a tough night. But and it's funny. Like, I've been here for 21 point something years, and I spent 4 years there. I've spent 21 point something years here, and I'll always be a Spartan, but I'm going to be very, very proud rocking the blue and gold, independent of the effort, because of how far we've come as a community and how far we've come as a football program. So independent of the scoreboard, if I'm going to be true to the words I always say, I'm going to be proud, having Serra written across the chest that night.
100%. That's awesome. And I wanted to bring up one small other detail that you told me on a different field, not even a Serra field, but a Broncos field, which was, you mentioned that you were doing an address for the Hall of Fame that night for another Spartan.
Oh, yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so the the tradition of the De La Salle Hall of Fame is to, someone or multiple people do an induction into it, a speech, a pre-speech. So you have to go to De La Salle, get filmed, and say the words that you want to say about the person being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I was chosen by Atari Callan to do that.
Very cool.
And
that is on that night? Is it?
Yeah, I
just
said,
think it's kind of cool.
Well, I was thinking like, hey, if I'm going to go over there, instead of driving there today or yesterday, like I'm going to be there. And I have such a great staff who can manage the team. It's not going to take long, but I'm going to go to the brother's office or the brother's house, and they're going to have something set up, and I'm going to do my 1 minute
so cool
intro, and I think it's going to be a unique time to do it because I'll be sitting in two worlds.
That's what I mean. That's why I wanted to bring it up. And then also, I mean, isn't Alumba is your coach of the year, right? For California? I mean, didn't you guys both receive that honor, or was that the effort itself?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I just think there's so many parallels. That's all.
Totally.
I just think it's so great. And will you have any friends or alumni friends in the audience, you think, that are going to come watch this battle?
Probably.
You'll see them on the field after.
I'm trying to do what I'm saying for the kids to do, just internalize.
Totally. No input.
Justin does a great job. Justin Ferdinand does a great job with, parking and parking passes. And I always get texts from my wonderful dad, like, hey, how do I get in? And what's the problem? Like, Dad, geez, call Justin.
Right.
He's awesome at this.
Definitely.
We got 84 kids on the team that need some attention. But anyway,
so cool.
So I'm going to try to focus. And I do have experience from playing over there. So I'm kind of over all that, coming back to the school with the football team, like so personally. And that's something I had to work through, but we've played over there 2-3 times. I don't even know how many times, but seeing everyone I know, see my teachers.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, we've done that. So
awesome.
We're coming over there to play football.
It's another business trip.
Yes, it is another business trip.
Awesome.
And all these are going to be lessons that I don't think there's any, for us, I can't think of any 2-week span that will be more difficult than this. There just can't be.
We talked about that last week.
The travel,
right?
The elements, the pressure, all of that. So I told the team the other day, like as a head coach, I win either way. We did not have a good practice week so far. We have not had a good practice. Yesterday was a little bit better, but I told the team in all honesty, like as the head coach, I win both ways, because if it goes the way we don't want it to go, then I'll say I told you so. Can't practice like this. Right? We need to get better, right? And if it goes the other way, then it goes the other way. That's clear. It's like, oh, great. Okay, we overcame some things. We're working hard. Went back to back. We put our best effort on the field, and that's what I don't really care about the scoreboard. I really don't. I just, for this game in particular, I just want us to honor the game, honor the school, honor each other, and play as hard as we can, and let the chips fall where they may. I mean, just move your chips all in. This is an all-in type game. Just I don't really care about the results. They might throw aces down and aces get flopped, like, oh, God, that's great. But, at least the chips are in on the table. And to hold nothing back, no fear, go out there, independent of all the elements, throw your soul out on the field for each other, and let's just see what happens, And they're probably saying the same thing in Concord.
Awesome. Well, we will see. Tomorrow night the game starts. Kickoff is 8 o'clock in Concord at De La Salle. It's going to be a great matchup. And again, I appreciate your time, and I'm so excited to watch the game. So go Padres.
Too. Go Padres.